Our next guest is an award-winning Hollywood superstar who lights up any screen she goes anywhere near. And now, any bookshelf. Her autobiography, Rebel Rising, is out now, so make ours a treble as we welcome the human gold medal, who is Rebel Wilson!
Yes!
Wow! I'm called a human gold medal.
Yes, you
Come
are!
on! A gold Rebel medal! Let's hear it from the control room for Rebel Wilson!
This is great for my self-esteem.
Yeah. By the way,
Love
Jane,
you guys. Love you guys.
happy birthday, Jane. You're welcome.
Yes, happy birthday, Jane.
Yeah, we got Rebel
also,
Wilson for you.
Shout out to Chris's son, Eli.
Yeah.
What a legend.
Come on.
Total champion.
I can't believe that you just said he exploded last night. He takes no interest in the show whatsoever. I don't blame him. He's 11. What does he care?
Yeah.
Theatre school, though, every Saturday morning, goes to theatre
he's
school.
into it.
He's
He's
in all the
into
productions.
it.
He
Yeah.
and his mates love you and your gang. They just adore what you do. So congratulations, well done for having all those fans all over the world.
Aww.
Right, there's been a lot of talk about this book.
Oh, just a little bit, Chris. Yeah.
Okay. So there's been a lot of talk about 3 pages in the book. My point is, there are another 320 pages of an epic autobiography.
Oh, thank you for saying that. Like, there's so much in this book, and like so much people are relating to. Like, obviously, like I'm someone who knows what it's like to be a really big person and to be really overweight, and then to lose weight and to get healthier. So there's a lot about that and my relationship with food, sexuality, love life, like crazy stuff from childhood and funny stories and other celebrity
And the deals.
stories.
I love the deals.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the
Oh.
lawyer in me, like, kind of, telling people what's up with the Hollywood
there's
deals.
the 10-year lawyer degree that was going on as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are those 3 pages, but is it okay if we talk about the other 320?
Yeah, I
Because
think
they've been
that's
talked
fine.
about loads. You can talk about them if you want to. It's entirely up to you. But, there's the tech billionaire and that party. There's the tennis player, which was an amazing chapter. There's the heartbreaking letter you wrote to your dad after he passed. There's all the jobs pre-Hollywood. There's the surprise 13th birthday party thrown by the schoolmates you thought didn't like you, but they did. There's your superhero mum. There's the good guys as well as the bad guys like Ben Stiller and Matt Lukes and Robin Williams.
Oh, they're good guys.
I
for
know.
sure.
And there's the
Legends.
deals, there's the money and what you've been able to do for your family as a consequence. There's Rebel, Melanie Rebel. There's that sort of chapter. There's a huge court case that you fought and won. Congratulations, well done. There's wanting to become a mum and it not happening, then the miracle of it happening. And then there's, like in all success stories, the things that almost didn't happen, really nearly didn't happen, but then did, thank God, which is why you're here talking to us now. I mean, what a life, man.
I don't even know where to start on that list.
This is my kind of book. It's like a playbook of how to just get it done.
Yeah, and just like really with this, I was just so honest, raw, and vulnerable,
Yep.
and I just put it all out there.
So vulnerable.
Yeah, so I was like, do we want to start with the tech billionaires party?
We don't have to. Let's. Can we start? I'm going to jump around all over the place. I love the
Okay.
book. I've read every single word of the book apart from the ones that I couldn't because they were redacted. But let's just start with you getting an American agent. So your flatmate at the time couldn't believe it. I know that agency. I used to live in LA. I was represented by a different agency, but Ari Emanuel represented me for a while, and then he became part of your agency. And so how did you get your agent? And then after getting your agent, you got this crazy audition, this extemporary audition where you've got to go and just basically blag your way through an hour of messing about for Bridesmaids. You then get the Bridesmaids gig for $3,500. But then the movie business being what it was a year till it came out, and you weren't allowed to do other jobs because your visa said you couldn't. So you had to carry on acting, and you nearly had to go to Australia, but you didn't. Speak to any of that. It's up to you.
Okay, so when I first came to America, I came with one suitcase.
Yep.
And what we call in Australia a doona, which is like a duvet. And I come, and then I fill the suitcase, a quarter of it, with chocolates.
Yep.
That just shows you how deep my kind of obsession with sweets
Addiction.
is. Yeah, addiction.
Yeah.
And so I come over. I'm sleeping on a friend's couch for $100 a week, and on my second day, I get signed by the biggest agency now called William Morris Endeavour. And I guess I walk in the door, and they hadn't seen anyone like me. Like there weren't many plus size actresses, and I also because I wrote and produced as well, so there wasn't anybody like me. And my friend had told me, he's like, if you go to America, you got to sell yourself.
Yeah.
And that's kind of culturally against what we are kind of as Brits and Australians. You don't really go out there and say, oh my God, I'm like the best thing ever. But that's kind of more American culture. So I walked in, I'm like, I'm like the female Jonah Hill, and I'm here to crush it.
That was your pitch, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was my pitch.
That was your actual pitch.
Because you can't just go to America and say, I'm great at everything. You got to kind of pigeonhole yourself. And so I did. And Jonah Hill would be on these Judd Apatow movies. And then lo and behold, my first job I get is in a Judd Apatow movie directed by Paul Feig called Bridesmaids. And I went in and had to audition. I auditioned for the Melissa McCarthy role.
Yep.
And I was kind of like the alternative choice because they weren't sure if they were going to cast Melissa because she's not the huge, massive star that she is today. And so I went in and Kristen Wiig's there and they're like, okay, just improvise that you're at a wedding, your bridesmaids together, just go. So we're like, and I just start improvising and all my work in Australia kind of came together and I just improvised all this hilarious stuff and somehow we're then snorting cocaine through our belly buttons, like miming it. Obviously there was no cocaine.
In bathrooms.
Yeah, and just
you mime bathrooms to snort the imaginary cocaine in. So congratulations.
It was just like miming and it was just this full on thing and they kept it going for an hour. And I was like, I think this audition's going well. And then I get a call the next day saying, you've got it. And I went, what? I thought, no, I'm just new to America and that role was insane. And they go, well, not the role you auditioned for, but that is going to go to Melissa McCarthy. But we actually think you look a bit like Matt Lucas. And so we're just going to add you in and you can play his sister in the film. And then that's how I got in the movie.
Yeah, so that was it. So they created a part for you.
Yeah.
Which is great. That means you must
in.
have absolutely nailed it. Well, you sound like you nailed the audition. Clearly, you did nail the audition. Right. So then you become friends with Matt, and then you get to eventually you get to live with Matt for a bit.
Yes. Yeah. We became real life roommates after playing roommates in the movie.
And you could wander out and they really are brother and sister. Who knows? But the movie business, being the darned movie business, there's this lag, isn't there? So this 12-month lag of you making.
It's always about a year. So like for example, now I know I've got 3 movies coming up because I've already shot them that you guys will see in like 12 months time. So there's always a year. So that year when I'd filmed Bridesmaids but nobody in the world had seen it yet. But I thought, I think this is going to be amazing. But I had to wait a whole year and then I only had about $60 a week to live on for that whole year. And it was pretty lonely.
Yeah, of course.
Time. It's not like the partying, what you'd think, like when you move to Hollywood. It's more just like, going on a hike, which is walking uphill, which I never thought I would enjoy. And I went to the movie cinemas once a week with my money and the rest spent on like corn chips because, again, my diet wasn't great back then. And then that was a year patiently waiting to think if this movie's great, I might have a career in America. If it's not, I'll go back and maybe become a lawyer.
What a strange 12 months. I mean, I've read loads of these books because it's what I do for a living. I've lived the life a bit, as well. But I've never really heard a story like that before where you've got this movie in the can, but you're not on the conveyor belt. So you don't have other movies to fill in. You don't have an income stream. Your cash flow's drying up. You've got a really good money head on you because of the jobs you've done in Australia for your mum and your dad in their small businesses and things like that. So you're aware of everything, but it's almost like putting it all on black or, putting it on the nose at one of the horses at the track with your dad.
Yeah, well, gambling was in my family,
I know.
and this was a gamble to sell everything I own and move to Hollywood
it's
and
giving me
live off
goosebumps.
my life savings. It was a huge gamble, and it could have backfired. I mean, the odds. I think I'd have, if I was a guy, I'd have more odds of like making it in the NBA or the NFL than making it as a professional actor.
So that was a gamble, right? So then you bag this role in Bridesmaids, and it's like putting a bet on a horse, but the race takes a year.
Yes.
And
it's painfully slow.
Oh, gosh. And you only have 4 scenes.
Yes.
So you're like, I'm betting on 4 scenes, 12 months, and $3,500.
Yeah, and I thought Jonah Hill had 1 scene in The 40-Year-Old Virgin, and then he got a career. And then I was like, okay, I have 4 scenes.
Right.
Is those wacky improvisations enough to get noticed in Hollywood?
So count down to the premiere and then the film's release. Go.
Mm-hmm. So the premiere comes up and then you kind of have to pay thousands of dollars to go to the premiere to get an outfit and everything. So I really lost money doing Bridesmaids.
You were down.
Yeah. And then I get in there And then like, wow, the laughter at the premiere, I was just like, okay, this movie's going to be great. And then all of a sudden I booked 6 movies in the 2 weeks from the release of Bridesmaids, one of which is the movie Pitch Perfect, which is, just my personal favorite, really, of all the movies that I've done. And I get this message over Facebook, and it's this writer, Kay Cannon, and she goes, okay, I've written this movie called Pitch Perfect, and I don't want you to be offended, but there's this character called Fat Amy, and I feel like you'd be great for it. And she sends me the script and asks if I would audition. I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I go in and audition and sing Lady Gaga, Edge of Glory with my own body percussion, which was like, I don't know whether you can hear that
Yeah,
beat.
you can.
So like I did my own thing, and then they cast me, and I was the first person cast in Pitch Perfect, and it was because Kay had seen these offcuts of Bridesmaids.
Control room round of applause just for that story. Thank you. Yeah. By the way, continued happy birthday, Jane. We
Happy
continue
birthday,
to bring
Jane.
you Rebel Wilson
Yeah.
on your birthday. Oh my goodness me. And then, you get this gig. By the way, there's loads of missing out here. It's all in this book. You've got to get this book. It's great. It's such
It
a
has
great read.
everything.
Rebel Rising, a memoir, Rebel Wilson, full of revelations, I've been saying this morning.
Oh, full of revelation.
I
Can
know.
I use
Revelations.
that?
Yeah, Revelation could be
that's
book
genius.
2. Come on, Revelations. And so I'm having to fast forward because I'm too excited for my own good, right? I couldn't sleep last night because I knew you coming in, read the book. I'm very excited. And so you get the gig. You've got the Pitch Perfect gig. You're not filming it yet, but you've got the gig. You get 6 movie offers within about 6 minutes of Bridesmaids becoming this obvious hit. You then go, because you're not quite sure. Rebel's not quite sure whether what she's seeing is to be believed. So she sneaks in loads of cinemas, just watching the film again and again, and making sure people are still laughing at the film. That's all true, isn't it?
Sitting up the back and seeing if they're laughing at it, and they were. They were in a baseball
They're still
cap.
laughing.
Yeah, I know that movie's still going strong, isn't it?
And it okay.
Stands the test of time.
So then you get all these other gigs, and including Pitch Perfect. However, there is now a Jenny Craig / Fat Amy conflict.
Yeah, so remember, like, I didn't have much money. I was hemorrhaging money living in the US, and I had been offered back in Australia this Jenny Craig contract to lose weight, which at the time was probably the biggest weight loss contract.
Right, so we don't know what Jenny
could
Craig
get.
is, so...
I guess it's like Weight Watchers.
Yep.
Do you have that here?
There you go.
Yeah.
Done.
And so you lose weight. I think Mel B had a contract with them at one point, a couple of big stars. And so this was right before I got cast as Fat Amy. And then all of a sudden I get the role of Fat Amy, and it says in the contract, well, you can't drastically change your appearance.
Yeah.
But I had already accepted the Jenny Craig contract.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what do I do? And I just felt like Fat Amy is my destiny.
So
and
how did Jenny Craig feel about that?
Well, yeah, I don't think they were that happy about it.
But it worked. Did it work? How did it work out? Because obviously it did work out.
I actually did the program for a few weeks before that, and I had tried all the food and everything, and I quite enjoyed it. And then, and then they had little desserts and everything. I was like, great. And then I remember being in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is where we filmed the movie, and I had all the Jenny Craig things, and then I'm like, I'm losing too much weight. Like, I
what
can't.
a dilemma.
So I had to throw out the food.
So crazy, isn't
and
it?
then just eat the food from the South, which is like mac and cheese, fried chicken. And then that was my commitment to Fat Amy, which was well worth it. Yeah. That is, I just adored playing that character.
All right. So Pitch Perfect, different kind of experience to filming Bridesmaids, because you're on the schedule the whole time. There's a phrase for that, isn't there?
It's called like run of picture.
Run of picture, that's
that
right.
means when you might not film every single day, but you kind of film across the whole thing.
You get to be there.
Yeah, and it takes about 2 months to film
and
a
that's
comedy
different.
movie.
It's a different experience. You're one of the stars of the film. Different trailer situation. Yeah, what was that? What was all that?
I think I went from like a quarter trailer to what's called like a half banger, which means you have that's the industry term. I don't mean anything rude by it. It means you get half of those big trailers to yourself. When you're like The Rock, whatever, you get the whole trailer.
When did you get
yourself.
your first banger, your full banger?
Oh, full banger was probably Isn't It Romantic?
Right.
My movie where I was the lead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's also called number 1 on the call sheet.
Yeah, and at the bottom of the contract, this is like a 97-page contract. There's all this, that, and the other, and then right before you sign, it says, and the full banger.
Yeah.
And you go, yep, that's the one for me.
Yeah,
I'm a full
but
banger
sometimes
girl
they have
now.
like a 1/6 banger.
No, you don't want that. You don't want the
if you're
1/6
really
banger.
if you're like Viking number 2 in a scene,
You know,
get
it's,
the 1/6.
it's a rung on the
trail.
right ladder, but it's not the rung you want to be on.
Yeah.
So then you get a Pitch Perfect 2, obviously gangbusters, huge franchise, and then there's the dastardly goings on of the movie industry and Pitch Perfect 3. Well, guess who won in the end, everybody? Over to you.
So what do you mean about?
Because
Pitch Perfect 2 was the highest grossing musical comedy of all time.
Correct.
And then I don't know, I guess a lot of people wanted to put their hands in it.
Yeah.
And so Pitch Perfect 3 maybe, got a bit muddled or something.
Well, didn't they sort of underwrite the future of the franchise with a younger cast?
Oh, yes. Okay. So basically, at the end of Pitch Perfect 2, they told us, OG Bellas, you know what? We think you're too old. You're not going to be coming back for the third movie.
Also becoming a bit too expensive.
Yeah, and maybe you're cost too much now. So you know what? This new lovely actress Haley Steinfeld, who joined us in the second movie, she's going to take over the franchise. And you older girls now, we won't be needing you.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And they literally said that to us.
Pitch off.
As we were filming the end of Pitch Perfect 2, and made us film a scene where we hand the reins of the franchise basically over to young Haley, who is the most gorgeous girl.
Great.
So
Nothing
nothing
to do
against
with her, however.
nothing against Haley. She was not part of this. So anyway, we do that. And then, surprise, surprise, flash forward, Pitch Perfect 2 becomes the highest grossing musical comedy of all time. At which I thought, that's interesting. Would they really get rid of us? Turns out they were doing like these focus groups, and my housekeeper's niece in Los Angeles, went in, and executives from Universal were like, who would you definitely want to see back in Pitch Perfect 3? And Fat Amy ranked like really high. So I thought, as a lawyer, this is leverage. This is what you call leverage. And they, like the younger people that came in for the second movie, they signed up for a 3-picture deal. They didn't. And so we could basically ask for whatever we wanted.
And it's in the book. The figure's in the book.
Yeah, I know.
Shall we drum roll? Let's get a drum roll, Jane. On your birthday, Jane. Here we go. Drum roll, and let's get the 1812 overture. So, what did you sign for?
So that was, my biggest deal of my career, and it was $10 million US.
$10 million US dollars. Come on.
Storm or something.
I mean, hello.
But I don't say that to brag, because there are many male movie stars that you hear about that are very openly, they get 20 million for pictures or more.
Yes.
And so I'm not saying it for that. I'm saying it's like a win. It was, girl power, and it was just, utilizing.
You don't have to
my law
apologise for
degree.
it. Because I've never been shy to talk about money, and some people think it's vulgar, but because I come from a council house.
I noticed in the UK, some people do think it's vulgar to talk about it.
I think without generalising, for me, because I was thinking about you, I was so relieved that you were talking about the deals, and I don't find it crass at all. I find it really interesting and really inspiring as well, and also educational, informative, instructive, all those different things, And I was thinking about last night. I think if you came from no money, you don't mind talking about money. It's if you come from money, for some reason, sometimes, not all people do, sometimes some people do. And I just found it very refreshing.
Yeah, because I guess people thought, well, why do these actors going on strike last year? It's because they don't realise that like 98% or something earn below minimum wage.
More,
as an actor. And then me starting on Pitch Perfect 1 got was the union's minimum for Pitch Perfect 1. So to go from that and then to go to $10 million for Pitch Perfect 3 was something that I was really proud of, and that I worked hard to get.
And you've always worked really, really hard, because one of the things I think I'm blessed with, and I'm blessed with many, many things, and I finally now I realise.
Look at this view, Chris.
I know. Made all the better for you being framed right in the middle of it.
London Bridge behind me.
Come
it's
on,
awesome.
Rebel. Come on. But I was blessed with the work ethic. I love working.
Yeah,
and it
me
doesn't
too.
matter.
Are you a workaholic?
Not a workaholic, but I'm a fan of work.
Yeah.
I'm a lifeaholic. And, when I'm doing things that I love, which fortunately I get to do. But I've always just loved working. You know, I used to fit car windscreens. I loved it. You've had loads of jobs, haven't you?
Yeah, I just always knew that if I wanted money, I had to earn it myself.
Yeah.
And so I come from a dog showing family. So even from the early days, I know it's weird. Now you know. Yeah, we had a company called Petcetera, etc., which was a little yellow caravan that we'd drag around to all the different dog shows in Australia, and we'd sell, glamorous things like pooper scoopers, dog leads, dog brushes, flea bombs to if your dogs had fleas. So that was the upbringing. And then I started side businesses from as young as I can remember.
Side hustles.
And I wasn't just going to sit there at the dog shows. And so I would reach into the rubbish bins, collect up the soft drink cans and recycle them to make money.
And then other kids copied your jam, didn't they?
Yeah. And so then I moved on and had a store selling sweets at the dog shows. And I've just always had this drive. I don't think I can ever get rid of it.
Yeah.
And it just comes from having humble beginnings.
It is a true blessing.
Yeah, I really like it. And I once dated somebody, which is in the book, who had never worked a day in his life. And I found that so odd.
Was this the Malibu guy?
No. Jacob, my ex, who came from a very wealthy family.
Yeah.
And I could not relate to that. To never working, ever.
Well, I love it. It's part of life. It's always been part of life. And our first holiday to France, we went on a coach because we couldn't afford to go on a plane. It took like forever. We might as well go to Australia, literally walking to Australia. When as a kid, it seemed like to take us that long. And we were staying at a campsite. And we found out that there was a posh sort of 24-hour store, posher, that sold these bottles of fizzy drink, Orangina it was, and there was a deposit on the bottle. And there was another shop around the corner, a bit further down from the campsite, which sold the same ones, but for so much less. And we figured out that if we bought our fizzy drinks from the first shop and returned the bottles to the second shop, we would be getting paid for drinking fizzy drinks, which is what we did. So there's a lot of this stuff going on.
Yeah, see, it's a very entrepreneurial spirit that you had. And I definitely had that. And I am really proud of that.
You still have it.
And I hope now with my gorgeous daughter that I do pass that on to her.
Yeah, well, you will, because it's either in you or it's not, and it's difficult, obviously, because now you are of a certain status financially, but it's still within. She will see it. It's called teaching from behind. It's not what you say, it's what you do. It's how you are, all those kind of things. You know all this. And you're producing now. You've been writing screenplays for years and years and years. You've been making your own stuff for years and years, and you talk about getting decent sized checks. But even when they weren't that big, you were always really good to your family. So there was a $90,000 deal you did just before you left for Australia.
So this was like when I became professional.
Yeah.
So I only became a professional actress at 23.
Yeah.
And I got this $90,000 check for a commercial from a lovely casting agent who I just used as my casting agent for the movie I just directed because I always remembered her. And so I suddenly, I was at college, I had all this debt, and then suddenly I get given $90,000. So I pay off my credit card debt that I was drowning in.
Well done.
And then I go, and the lady at the bank goes, "Did you win the lottery?" I went, "Yes." And then I take my family on an around-the-world trip because my mum was a single mum at that point with 4 kids. I couldn't afford to take us anywhere. And so I just go, all right, I'm spending 35 grand of that money on an around the world trip for my family. Although we still did what I call bogan things, which is like all of us, 5 of us, shared like one hotel room in New York because the New York hotel rooms are expensive.
See, again, savvy. Yeah. But you're putting joy first. So once practicality is sorted to some extent and the essentials are covered to some extent, why not just fast forward joy to next place in the queue? From 90 grand, spending $35,000 on your family, so cool. And then when you make your bigger bucks, again, you buy a place in New York and you sort of open the book. The first chapter of the book is brilliant. It reads like the first 5 minutes of an amazing screenplay called Rebel Wilson. It's so fantastic. It's about you wanting to be a mum, but also you do mention your 2 houses because you're Rebel 2 houses now, aren't you?
I mean, I'm really into property. I used to love that game, Monopoly.
Yeah.
And so now
for real,
I like to.
But in Hollywood, or in LA, you have 2 houses.
Yes.
One to keep things in.
Yeah. This is going to make me sound like such a wanker.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. Okay. So the first
you're living
chapter
the dream, man.
is really just like a morning week of my life,
Yeah.
and I'm 39, driving around Hollywood in my G-Wagon.
The G-Wagon gets a lot of mentions.
Yeah, which I then get pulled over by the cops for. And I still have that G-Wagon. Like, I love it. It's like it's a tank. And so, and I go to a fertility doctor, and thinking, I want to start a family, but at that point I'm 39, I'm single, I'm very overweight, and he tells me that I have to get healthier if I want a chance at that, and that just really hits me. And then that same morning I'm hit with the other dilemma, because my Hollywood team says, well, if you lose weight, you might probably also lose your whole career. Because people like you being the fat, funny girl. So what do you want to do? And that was a very interesting morning.
Yeah, full of revelations there. But back to the two houses, if you don't mind.
Okay.
You have memorabilia in the second. It's the office house, isn't it?
Only in my office house.
The office house.
I think it's too much to have pictures of yourself in your real house.
What kind of stuff do you have in there?
Like all my movie posters.
So cool. Ones you were in and ones you bought because you love movies.
Well, they're actually all the ones I'm in.
Didn't you buy one in auction at the end of a theatre run or something?
Yes. So the very first musical I saw was 42nd Street. Yeah. Basically because our dog had auditioned for the musical. Didn't get it, but my mum was like, I really want to see what dog did make it. So we went and saw this musical, and that was the very first time at 14 I saw it. So I bought the marquee, the big poster from out the front of the theatre when the theatre closed down.
So cool.
But I have weird stuff. Like I have my hat from Night at the Museum 3. I have like wigs that I've worn or things on display. I just like keeping things. The movie slates
and it's
from the camera department.
It's your dream, man.
Yeah.
It's cool. You mentioned Night at the Museum there. We've got to talk about Robin Williams. So you're in this film with actual Robin Williams. I mean, hello. And I know you've met and now know some of your childhood heroes as friends. Double hello. But Robin Williams, in between takes, says, do you mind if I have a word with you? Takes you to one side and says what to you?
He was watching me do a scene with Ben Stiller improvising, and he's like, you could do drama as well as comedy. Oh, I was like, oh my God, coming from him, the legend. And then we just chatted about life. It felt like about 2 hours, and it's in the middle of the night because we do night shoots, because I guess the movie's called Night at the Museum. And it's freezing cold, and we've got blankets around us, and I'm looking at his face. He's like the kindest, most gorgeous man, and then he's giving me some compliments, and it was such a beautiful, beautiful experience that I got to have that interaction with him that night.
He seemed to be such a gentle, genuine, deep, and ultimately troubled soul. But he just, those eyes.
I just like it. Yeah, and I'm getting emotional like thinking about it. But the warmth that would come off that guy. It's incredible.
And the huge sort of extra capacity he had, because he was so talented, and he also he did what he, I know if you watch documentaries on him, he really worked at it, but he was so good at it in the end. He had all this extra capacity for love around the set, where people may have been worried about their lines or, God, this is taking too long, but he had all this extra capacity because he was so good at what he did, and he'd been doing it for so long. He could see things that other people couldn't see, not because they didn't want to, just because they didn't have the available panorama to see them. They were too focused on what they were up to, but he had this other thing going on.
He was just an absolute legend, and I just feel very, very lucky that I got to have that experience.
And there's loads of stories like that this is all in the same book. Rebel Rising,
Brad
and
Pitt
memoir.
Stories.
Rebel Wilson. What about this? So working with Robin, right? Williams, hello, right? Going on a holiday with Barbara Streisand.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to reread that like 3 times. How did that happen?
Oh, random thing. Like a friend invited me to the villa in the south of France, and they're like, oh, and Barbara's coming. I'm like, what, Barbara Streisand? But like my grandma listened to her CDs like nonstop.
Yep.
And I was like, oh my gosh. And then she was a real legend. So we're there swimming in the pool together, and she's telling me,
Barbara Streisand.
and she's telling me stories about how she directed Yentl, being a woman all those years ago. Like before that, I mean, now there's more female directors, but back then, I mean, just like what a champion she had to be to do that. And she was just like giving great advice. She taught me how to play this game called Rummy Cub, not knowing that I was kind of secretly really good at maths. And so, played her and won like first time. She was like, hang on,
Did
how
you think
did you
about
do
not
that?
winning?
Yeah, but then my competitive nature.
God, sorry, not even for Babs. Not even for the strays.
But that was, like sometimes I have to pinch myself. I'm like, what is my life? Like the night I asked out Justin Bieber. I'm like, what? Which I wasn't, it was more of a joke, but I did ask him out and he said yes. We never went out. Don't worry. But like, it's like, or some things, or where you get to meet Kobe Bryant or have these.
What about Brad at the Oscars?
Oh my God.
Tell us about that. Come on.
Brad Pitt literally wins his Oscar for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, gets off stage, feels a little bit overwhelmed because normally they have to go into like a press room and answer questions. Doesn't feel like doing that. So it feels like having a chat with me, who's there because I have to get dressed into a cat for a little bit, a little joke we were doing
with
about
James Corden,
about our hit movie Cats, and so we had to go backstage, and then I just kind of intersect with Brad, and he kind of holds on to me and just wants to just chill for a bit. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then Timothy Chalamet comes up and says, oh, thank you for letting me have a shower at your house. Because the second house, he came and he needed a shower one day before going to the airport. And somehow his assistant knew my assistant, and he came over for, it ended up he went in the hot tub as well.
Yeah. Which doesn't make it to the book, because you say there's another story there. This is the story.
Yeah, I wasn't home. My sister lets him in. He's like, they go in the hot tub together. I'm like,
Willy Wonka in the hot tub.
I know, like the hottest young actor there. And
Even hotter.
Then has a shower, spends a few hours and then goes. And then so he comes up and I'm chatting to Brad Pitt and he's like, thank you for the shower. And then I just seem like the coolest person. And as somebody who really knows what it's like to feel like a loser, and if you read the book, like, when I'm 12, 13, starting high school, I literally have no friends. I am the biggest loser. And then to just have these surreal moments that at the Oscars, and then Brad escorts me like a real Southern gentleman to my dressing room to get transformed into a cat.
Wow! And these stories just keep on coming. That's why Revelations has got to happen. Is it a 2-book deal? You got a 2-book deal?
No.
Revelations. By the way, you know where HarperCollins is? It's on the 14th floor here.
Is it?
Yeah. So
same building.
Just
okay.
go sign the deal.
Go and do another deal. No, I think. This is it. This is my tell-all memoir.
No,
I don't know.
Come
I don't
on.
know what more I could tell you.
All you have to do is go back through it again, right? And just tell the other bits of the stories that you've already started.
I'm definitely not short of stories.
You're
I
not
think
short
my
of
life
stories.
has been very eventful.
Please, miss, I have a question for you.
Yes.
From the back of the class.
Okay.
I loved it all, right? I love the story when you're watching the tennis match and you suddenly feel yourself turning into a hot mess and you think, what is happening to me?
Well, it was a very hot day. And then,
but it just got hotter.
And I was at Wimbledon and I was just like, I was watching this female tennis player and then suddenly I started like blushing. I was like feeling things and I was like, what is happening? And I'd met this tennis player before, just as, I'm a fan of tennis. I love tennis. And then I started feeling these feelings. And I thought at the time, I was on this kind of little experiment called the Year of Love where I was dating lots of people and I'd been on dates with about 50 different dudes because as part of the experiment, I was like, if anybody asks me out that year, I'm going to just say yes. I'm going to give it a chance. What do I have to lose? I'm very, very single. So let me just try it and, get more experience dating. And then I saw this woman and I was like, yeah. And then that kind of led to what I would describe as a situationship, what the young people call it.
Situationship.
With a professional tennis player. And it didn't lead to a proper relationship because she had to focus on her tennis. But what it did is kind of it opened up my heart and my sexuality, I guess you'd say, to being into women. And who would have thought going to Wimbledon and my friends there.
Anyone for tennis?
Yeah, and like she just wanted to go and drink Pimm's and eat the strawberries. And I'm like, no, I have to stay and watch this match and see what happens. And it's surprising what life can throw you. It was a real curveball, that
Yeah,
one.
and you had no idea because people have said, well, you must have known, and this explains a lot. Blah
Well,
blah blah blah.
I did think I came from a very conservative Christian family, and I did kind of think, oh, maybe I'm not 100% straight, but I really was into guys, and so I guess went with that and never quite explored the other options.
Had you not gone to Wimbledon, I wonder how, because it would definitely have revealed itself to you one way or another.
Yeah, probably.
I wonder when. I wonder how it meant to be. How close were you not going to Wimbledon? Were you? Because you like playing tennis as well, don't you?
I love it. And so I was
That
just
day.
sometimes the universe just brings things to you, and I've had that a couple times in my life, like when I had the malaria-induced hallucination.
It's the whole South
totally
Africa thing.
random.
We haven't even gone there, have we?
I know.
Yeah.
So I did a gap year in South Africa, got malaria, almost died. It was real bad, and I had this hallucination that I was an actress and that I was really, really good and that I win an Academy Award. But like just the odds of things happening, like I was in a major crime squad investigation. I was a witness in a court case, which led to me going to South Africa.
And the gun chases and
and the I was caught in shootouts. Luckily, I was never shot. Kidnapped for 24 hours. So it's just my life. At least the one thing is, I'm so proud of the book because I can just write down every single thing that's happened to me.
I'm exhausted. You had to live this life. I read the book yesterday and I'm talking to you today. I'm going to have to go and lie down for the rest of the day. It's such a great story. It's so inspiring for so many different reasons. It starts with wanting to be a mum and it ends with having become a mum.
I know. So that is the really happy ending to me. And my daughter is now a year and a half old, and she's just the most precious little girl. And it just, and I was one of those people, I had to go through fertility treatments, like 5 mini surgeries to get my daughter. And I'm just like, I don't know, it's love in a whole new way.
Yeah, and it's the 3 R's, isn't it?
Yeah, so I've got Ramona, my fiance, and little baby Royce. So yeah, it's
and Rebel
incredible.
Once and for all now.
What?
Once and for all, because the whole thing about the court case was the fact you weren't really called Rebel. And I am called Rebel.
Yeah. So my experience with the high-profile defamation court case in Australia was where I had to go to court and prove my whole life story, which is probably why I so easily had all the photos and stuff to put into the book.
They did you another favour.
Yeah. And tabloids kind of said that my story wasn't my story. Yeah. And so I had to go to court and prove. And obviously there's 10,000 witnesses who would witness my life at various points. And so we all came in and all the witnesses came in and said, yes, this did happen. Yes. And here's the photo of me in the malaria, in the hospital in South Africa. And here's this and that.
By the way, why would you make all that up?
I don't know. And I even insinuated that I'd made up my father's death, which was absolutely horrible.
I'm so glad you brought up your dad's passing, because the letter you write to your dad after he's passed is so beautiful.
Oh,
so beautiful.
And if you do listen to the audiobook version, you can tell that that kind of it just when I read that, I can't help but get really, really emotional because I don't know why I photographed the letter, but I did because I was going to leave it. I left it with his body, and I just. Writing somehow, it's cathartic and it can help you process your emotions. And so to anyone out there dealing with stuff, I'd really recommend it to write it. And I wrote a letter to my dad of all the things that I wish that I had said and that was maybe too scared to say or didn't know that obviously he passed away just very suddenly and had a heart attack. And so I wrote it and weirdly, I photographed it so that, not knowing obviously that many years later I could write a book and utilize it, but I just wanted to share it because, life is short. And do
you think that the number one thing you shared with your dad, forgive me, this is just my observation, it could be completely off the mark, is it the Rebel?
Probably, yeah.
Strength from mum, rebel from dad? Maybe, or is that too convenient?
My mum is just like an angel of a woman. And my dad, I kind of say, has a lot of dark side in his side of the family. But that's maybe, if you see me doing an edgy joke or something a bit outrageous, it's probably from his side. Yeah. Yeah, which I called the convict side.
We are
family.
Out of time, but we're not out of conversation.
can I just say thank you so much for reading it and engaging with this. And to me, like, even if this book just reaches 10 people, and people find motivation and things to change parts of their life, because I've obviously had to change.
Okay, well, coming in hot, we've got a minute, Vassos. Please tell the story of yesterday.
So yesterday, I just reached the section where you write a letter to your body. And literally within a minute of me reading that page, I get a phone call from a really good friend of mine, and I'm one of her confidants. And she's always had issues with body dysmorphia, and she's on that first hot day of the year, and she's panicking, and I said, look, things will, you will find the bridge off this at some. And I said, can I just read you something that I've literally just wrote?
Oh.
And I read it to her. I read what you write. You said, okay, I love my body, but it's time for a change. And she said, that really helped her. That really helps. So there's all the top like showbiz stories as well, but there's real help too.
Oh, thank you for saying that, because like that really is why I and I know I'm getting emotional, but that's why I wrote it, because I know there's so many people that relate to that kind of stuff, and I know what it's like to be invisible, be visible, like to be concerned about your weight, to gain weight, to lose weight, to be feeling all sorts of things with your body, and so I write about it in quite a lot of detail in the book to try to help people feel them less alone.
Yeah, well, thank you on her behalf.
Oh my gosh.
Oh jeez.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Your hair gets the first couple of pages. How's it doing at the moment? Your hair.
My hair. Oh yeah, it's
You kick
good.
off with 2 pages about your hair.
Yeah, but I do have a few clip-ins. Yeah.
Yeah. You're allowed to have clip-ins. Oh my goodness. It's great to meet you. It's great to meet you.
Oh, thank you guys for having me on, and I hope everybody enjoys the book. And if you're not a reader, you can get the audiobook and listen to it. But yeah,
Rebel
awesome.
Rising, it's out now. Stand by for Rebel Rising 2 Revelations. I'm gonna
How are we
keep
both
hitting that.
tearing up? Oh my god!
It's important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we're speaking to
I
each other
know.
from here, and we're hearing each other down here.
Yeah.
All right. What about this? Rebel stars as Sarah in the new film, The Almond and the Seahorse. You got 3 coming out, because that's the way you roll nowadays.
Oh yeah, it's just The Almond and the Seahorse, which is actually like a very serious drama with French actress Charlotte Gainsbourg, and so that's in cinema. We just had the premiere last night in Leicester Square,
Nice.
which
Are you
went
fresh
awesome.
from a premiere?
Yeah. That's I wouldn't say fresh. That's a late one.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Quite a late one.
Yeah,
Bit pesky there. A little bit
yeah,
pesky.
but I'm also what we call a Cinderella, which means I'm always home by midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Nothing
being a
good
mum,
happens after midnight.
Yeah, being a mum, that's still late. And then, oh gosh, I've shot an action movie that'll be out later this year called Bride Hard, with my friend Anna from Pitch Perfect, and Divine Joy Randolph, who just won the Oscar. And then I've just directed my first movie called The Deb, which is like, it's a gorgeous musical.
All right. I know that Nicole was very important instrumentally. We've got 20 seconds left.
Okay.
Just tell us about Nicole.
So Nicole gave me a scholarship when I was 22, turning 23.
Yeah.
And she gave me at the time $12,000 to go anywhere in the world to help my acting career.
And you've returned that now because you did the same. And I've got to tell you, the person that you sponsored is Jane's mate, and she's become a really successful person. And that's the end of the story. And happy birthday, Jane.
Yay!
And that was Rebel Wilson.
Oh!
Virgin Radio.